Committee. My name is Joe McGivern. I chair this fine committee. Committee members this evening with us, all five. Councilor Tallman, Councilor Leahy, Councilor Bartley, Councilor Sullivan. We're also joined by City Councilors Terry Murphy, Howie Graney, and at the moment, I believe that's it. If I'm not missing anyone. We have a good agenda, but I'm confident we'll get through it in flying colors in reasonable time. And if we, just the announcement, we will be on Zoom as we are now. We are also live on TV on the Access channel, channel 15, Comcast if you're in the city of Holyoke, and we are also being streamed. So with that in mind, the chair looks at the agenda. This meeting is now in order. Can we have a motion on item number one?
I'll make a motion to take item number one off the table.
Second.
Motion made second to take item one off the table. This is introduced under my name. It's in the amount of $3,825 to be authorized from the Computer Systems Department System Software License Uses and Fees. An appropriation for fiscal year 2021 for services that were rendered in fiscal year 2020. They were unencumbered at the end of the fiscal year. Off the table for discussion. All those in favor? Any opposed?
Aye.
So moved. We have our auditor with us. I think we know what this is, but Tanya, could you just quickly walk us through this?
Absolutely. So this is actually an invoice for Wally Computers, and it is for the Office 365 business license for April, May, and June of last fiscal year.
And do you know the reason why the bill wasn't paid last year?
I'm not sure. I can tell you that the bill is actually dated April 1 of 2020, so I'm not sure if it was misplaced or not. Actually, Wally followed up with the invoice and sent an email. So that's how I came about it. And I did have a conversation with the mayor's office. The bill was never paid, and we do owe them that money.
Okay, so it's a legitimate bill, missed the cut at the end of the fiscal year.
Yes.
And tonight's vote, the money was there, but tonight's vote is because it wasn't paid last year. The money allocated for it went back into the general fund. So tonight we're using this year's monies to pay last year's bill. Is there any discussion amongst the committee or other members? Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, where's Tanya? Can just through to Tanya. Tanya, where's the money coming from? Just so I'm clear.
It's coming from the computer services budget for licenses and usage.
Okay, and so what happened? There were funds remaining in that budget from last fiscal year?
No, that's why we're bringing this to you. Like, it probably should have been in a purchase order from last year to pay, but it was not. So we have to take our funding from fiscal year 2021. We do have available funds in there a little bit to pay this invoice.
And so what's the exact source of the revenue? I'm just unclear. I'm sorry, I'm not.
That's okay. It's not actually revenue. It's an expense.
I'm sorry, the source of expense. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. And it's coming, do you want to know the account that it's coming from? It's coming from the licenses and dues in the computer services budget. 11552-53100 is the account number if you want that.
Well, what's the last four, Tanya?
53100.
5310. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, Joe. Put my hand up. Thank you, Tanya. Can you first of all, thank you for that information, and can you just remind me why we switched from the gas and electric to Wally Computer?
I honestly don't have that information.
Would you have a copy of the contract?
I do have of the Wally contract.
Yes.
I do have a copy of that.
Would you mind emailing that over to me?
Not at all.
I appreciate that.
No problem.
And I think Councilor Bartley said this at the last meeting, but I think that we should try to develop a way that we could have you pay bills, less than $500. That have to bring it to the city council. It's, that's this type of thing. But yeah, just send that over to me. I'd appreciate it. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Counselor Collin.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, Mr. Chairman, that Counselor Bacon has joined us.
Oh,
Counselor
Hi,
Bacon
everybody.
joined us. Any further discussion? Chair will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve it.
Second?
Motion made and second to approve the paying of a prior fiscal year bill with this year's revenue, with this year's money. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimous.
Motion to take item number 2 off the table?
Motion
Second.
made and seconded to proceed and take item number 2 off the table. That's been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 2 is introduced under my name on behalf of the mayor and the Hoyoke Police Department, in order that the sum of $140,000 is appropriate to pay the cost of the Hoyoke Police Department vehicles. It says 4 police cruisers, and the payment of all costs incidental and related hereto that meet with this appropriation. The treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is authorized to borrow said amount under and pursuant to Chapter 44, Section 7-1 of the general laws, or pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes of the city therefore. That the mayor is authorized to contact for and expend any state aid available for the project, and that the mayor is authorized to take any other action necessary to carry out this project. Be it further ordered, be it further ordered that any premium received by the city upon the sale of any bonds or notes approved by this vote, less such premium applied to the payment of the cost of insurance and issuance of such bonds and notes may be applied to the payment and costs approved by this vote, accordance with Mass General Laws 24, same section 20, and that thereby reducing the amount of the authorized amount to be borrowed, and to pay such costs be like amount. Further order that the treasurer is authorized to file an application to qualify under Chapter 44 general laws and any other and all bonds and or notes authorized to be issued pursuant to the order, and the provide such information and execute such documents and deeds, and that this order be that in order to reduce interest costs, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is authorized to refinance any bonds issued pursuant to this order, and in connection therewith to be issuing bonds in accordance with Chapter 44, Section 21A of the general laws. One more, therefore, be there no change in this is the amendment that we added, that there be no change in the purpose of this bond authorization without a prior vote and of approval of the Hoyoke City Council. I think I just read the Cadillac version, but as we know, what we have before us is to request a proposal to purchase, I believe it's 4 detective cars for the Hoyoke Police Department. What's in front of us is the department did request that we bond for this. The mayor did approve that we bond for this. Tonight, we get to hear both sides of that issue. One, obviously, the need for these cruisers, and 2, is this the best way to purchase the detective cruisers themselves? With that in mind, under discussion, I suggest we hear from the police department first. If there's no objection, I see Lieutenant Hart. Is there anyone else here representing the police department?
No, it's just myself tonight.
Okay. The chief could not be present?
No, he could not.
Okay. The senior captain could not be present?
No, he could not either.
Well, it's a pleasure to see you, Lieutenant Hart, as always, because we know you come prepared to answer our questions. John, could you run this through us, perhaps, before we get into bonding versus something else? Could you tell us what the request is for, what the department is looking for, and why?
Yes, so currently we have approximately 11 unmarked cruisers that we use throughout the department. The newest of those 11 cruisers are 2 2011 cruisers. Those are the newest that are 10 years old. With this appropriation, we're looking to replace 1 18-year-old unmarked cruiser, 2 16-year-old unmarked cruisers, and 1 15-year-old unmarked cruisers. And all of those are, well over 100,000 in miles. And the reason we're going for or we're asking for the bond is we wanted to make a clear distinction between asking for these unmarked cars, which have a useful life of approximately 10 years. And as you can see, just by our request, 18, 16, and 15 years old, opposed to doing a short term for the regular marked cars, which have, a shorter life expectancy. If approved, we would be probably still keeping these vehicles in the fleet, but mainly for parts, just so we can prepare the other ones. And we'd like to start a similar program with our unmarked cruisers like we do with our marked cruisers, and kind of do maybe a 3 or 4 year plan to cycle the rest of the 11. So that's about it.
Yeah, when you just add on a little bit, of the 11, how many are 2011? The newer
Two.
ones? How many?
Two.
How many? Two.
Two.
And I heard you, but I missed it. You want to replace how many? 4. But how many
4.
18-year-olds?
One 18-year-old, 2 16, and 1 15. We have 2 other 15s, but we're just going to be replacing the 1. That would be the 4.
And by 18, 16, and 15 years old, that's the vehicle birthday or the
That's the year of the vehicle.
not the year the police department took them on necessarily.
No, that's the year of the vehicle.
Okay. And can you elaborate on why as opposed to a marked cruiser, why a unmarked cruiser has a longer life expectancy?
Because they aren't used 24/7. The marked cruisers are used 24/7, 7 days a week, all year long. And those are the vehicles responding, to all emergencies daily. Whereas the unmarked cruisers are not used 24 hours a day. They're used sparingly for various reasons, administrative duties, conducting investigations, and not driven as hard as the marked cruisers.
As far as investigations, that would be the detective bureau and any police officer going undercover?
Yes, unmarked cars, but they're kind of used and shared throughout the department, and administratively, detective, narcotics, our whole department.
Do the detectives take ownership of a car, or is it just they check them out when they need one?
No, they check them out.
It's not like the old days when we could say it was Denny's car.
Yeah, no.
Okay, and is there a motor pool and someone that's in charge of that?
Yes, we do. We do have someone in charge of that and maintains all the keys, spare keys, same thing. He does the whole fleet.
And who would that be, or what title would that be?
That would be Detective Gino Villamary. And he works very closely with our mechanic as well.
And are these cars taken home at any time and kept when the officer is off duty?
No, they are not.
And can you just elaborate on administrative duty?
That could be, say we have our internal affairs lieutenant who needs to go conduct interviews for new recruits. He would take the unmarked car and visit those new recruits.
And if, say, someone needed to follow up on purchasing tires or doing something, that is connected to the police department, and as opposed to using their own vehicle, would they be able to check one of these out?
Yeah, that's another example. Like we'd have officers using those to go to trainings as well, opposed to using their own vehicle going to a training.
Okay. And are these vehicles gassed up at the city gas pumps?
Yes, they are.
Okay. And the mechanic assigned to the police department and or the yard takes care of them for the most part?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I suggest we open up to questions and answers, of course, but I suggest we focus on the 11 vehicles, the fleet of the police department first. And then Tanya Doljic, our auditor, is here. She did speak to bond counsel today to talk about bonding or possible other ways to do this if the city council sees fit to go forward. If that makes sense, can we just talk about the need for these 4 vehicles and any questions about that first? Is there any discussion on that, those items? Councilor Bacon. Councilor, you're still muted. Our administrative assistant had added a much needed feature. When we log into Zoom, we're automatically muted now.
Gotcha. Thank you. My question is, how many of the 11 cars are used each day on average?
Pretty much, I would say on average, pretty much every day, if not definitely once a week.
So on a daily basis, would you say it's like 6, 7, 8?
It's pretty much all of them. There's a lot of different assignments, a lot of things going on that require people to be in different places. So they're all constantly being used.
But it is possible for somebody to get mileage reimbursement if they use their own car, say, to go to a day-long educational program?
Yes, and then they'd probably get mileage and food as well. But I think to be more practical for the city, it's just to use the department car than to have the city pay out more funds.
Well, but if they're at an education class, they're still going to get the meal and the other things because they're going to be there for the whole day, right? So it's just really the cost of the car versus the cost of the mileage reimbursement, right? And I'm just trying to look at this because we have a fleet, if I remember correctly, of 55 cars for, and what do we have? I think 120 officers, and we have 6 patrol cars roughly on per shift. And so I'm just trying to see if there are any economies of scale that we could bring to the size of the fleet relative to costs of the department. And that's a bigger question. I know that's not what we're here for now, but that's kind of why I'm asking the question. Thank you.
Right. We do a lot of carpooling too. If there's multiple people going to the same class, we'll carpool in one of our marked cruisers. And I'm not sure if it's a contractual issue or not on whether we can, the chief can order someone to take their own vehicle for a training. If we normally, if there's a vehicle available, that's the preferred choice. So.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilor Tallman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Lieutenant Hart, thanks for your attendance tonight. Quick question on the unmarked vehicles, the ones that you're looking at purchasing, can you tell me the amount of equipment they have on them? Is it the same as a regular police car?
No, they won't have the MDTs, the mobile data terminals, where they can run plates and stuff. No computers inside, but they will be equipped with lights and sirens and radio.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion on the vehicles themselves or the need for vehicle replacements? Councilor Graney?
No, I don't. I'm curious to where.
No, your box lit up. I thought you were about to chime in. My fault.
No, I'm good.
Okay, we can come back to any questions, but I think we should move on to the Counselor Solomon.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions for Lieutenant Hart. If we could.
Yep, go right ahead.
John, are any of these unmarked cruisers used for tasks outside the city of Hoyoke for task force use or anything like that?
No, those are usually task force provide their own vehicles.
So if we have officers working for the task force, they're using task force vehicles, not city of Hoyoke vehicles.
Correct.
Okay, that was my only question. Thank you.
Okay, so I think we got, for the moment, the gist of what the vehicles are used for and the reasons why why the police department's looking to replace 4 of them. With us is Tanya Dolajek, who did speak with our bond counsel a little bit today, and to talk about bonding, and maybe we can get into a discussion about if there might be a reason to have a different option for this if we wanted to go forward for this purchase. Tanya, can you just give us an idea about bonding and what we're looking at in terms of rates, in terms of practicality of bonding for a vehicle that maybe their life expectancy is around 10 years, but.
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
So, because of the type of vehicle it is, it's a cruiser, they're not going to bond for over 5 years. So that's what they consider the useful life of a vehicle. Police cruisers, like we do the 3 years just because we know that that's how long that they last us. So for these vehicles, I actually requested from bond counsel what the pay schedules would look like on the bonds for 2, 3, and 4 years. I'm not sure that we have to go much more than that. And I think it would be good to obviously have them paid off as soon as possible so we can move on to other things. The coupon rate for all of the 2, 3, and 4 years is all at 1%, which is an excellent rate. All rates are low. We're looking at for 2 years of interest, it would be $2,100. For 3 years, $2,750. And for 4 years, $3,500. Total payments for the years, what we would have to pay for on an annual basis, 2 years would be around $70,000 to $71,000. 3 years would be $45,000 to $50,000, and 4 years is about $35,000, $36,000. So that's what I have on the bond information. I don't know what more information you'd be looking for.
Mr. Chairman?
Councilor Greeny?
Yeah, just through the chair, could I ask Tanya, what's the warranty on these vehicles?
That would probably be more of a Sergeant Hart question.
Okay, well, Sergeant Hart or Lieutenant Hart, what's the warranty on the vehicles?
I'm not sure yet. The exact warranty date on those, but I can get that for you. Once we purchase those, I can send those to the council.
Generally, there should be a standard warranty on most of these vehicles, like whether it's 3 years or 5 years or 100,000 miles or something.
Yeah. There's usually something standard similar to that. I think for the other cruisers, it was something like 3 years, 36,000. Something similar to that.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Tallman? Pete, you're still muted.
Thank you. Tanya, in the last payment, the total payment for the 4 years, I didn't quite get that. You said 35 to 36,000 to.
Yeah, like, sorry. The actual payment itself is $35,700. That's for the principal, and the interest is $525. So actually, it's more like $36,000 a year in principal and interest. I actually had Jeffrey send you all of these pay estimates a couple days ago. If you want to take a look at them.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I appreciate it. I just didn't get the total. Yeah, so it's about 36,000 a year for the 4 years.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman, one more question.
Councilor Greeny?
These 4 vehicles, are they going to be purchased locally when they're put out to bid? Are our local firm like Marcotte Ford going to be given an opportunity to sell us these vehicles?
Yes, we're going to be using Marcotte Ford. They are on the state contract for that, so we will be purchasing them through Marcotte.
Okay, thank you, Lieutenant Hart. That's great.
Thank you.
Councilor Bartley?
I don't know how to work these emojis. So let me just get rid of them. They're annoying as hell. There's one. I think just crying out. Oh my God, these are awful. Okay, let's just leave it there. Screw it. One of the things I just want to emphasize, Tanya, the interest rate is what, 1% through the chair, Tanya?
That's correct.
Okay, yeah, that's. I mean, it's almost. I mean, that's so the total payments are pretty well almost. I mean, they're not much above the principal, Tanya. So how do we make the through the chair to Tanya? How do we make the determination about how long the bond goes out for? Do we vote on that, Tanya, or is that in the bond package itself? Is that decided by the mayor? I don't remember having a menu of options such as this.
It actually is not voted on by council, but it is through bond council in the mayor's office, in the treasurer's office.
Oh, okay. So we take the vote on the bond, and then the treasurer, and then the mayor and bond council decide on the length of the bond. Is that accurate?
Yes, and I mean, I'm also involved in that decision. We take a look at our payments, what we can afford, what we can't afford, what's falling off of our bond schedule, what we want to add on. So obviously with vehicles, I personally would want to take the least amount of years because we're going to own that asset, and you don't know if you're going to get in an accident with it or it's a liability. So the faster we pay it, the better. My purview.
Yeah. Okay. Through the chair to Sergeant Hart. Sergeant, can I just what you've had these. The department's had vehicles now for 18 years, 16 years, 15 years. Why now?
Because our they're on basically on their last leg, and you can see by the other transfers of the amount of money we asked to be transferred into motor vehicle repair. It's a lot because of that. We're just trying to keep these vehicles going, but they're on the last leg. It's just.
Well, how long have they been on the last leg? Did it just happen in March, or when I got this order, or had they been on the last leg for years?
No, we've asked for these cruisers in previous years for unmarked vehicles, and we've put this on our capital outlay budget for the past 3 years, I believe, at least, for unmarked cruisers.
And where was that presented? Just to the mayor? Because I don't remember seeing that.
Well, we submit it to the city, to the auditor every year.
Okay, and what's the plan of the department going forward to submit something like this annually?
No, like I said in the beginning, we're looking at maybe every 3 or 4 years.
Okay, so Tanya, you heard that, right?
I did.
Okay, so yeah, because that's just important. And then Tanya, just through a chair to Tanya. Tanya, can you tell me, does our stabilization balance, does that affect our bond, the ability to bond and then the interest rate? Does that have any bearing at all? And I'm really just asking. I don't know the answer.
It does, because what we have in our stabilization, if it's healthy, it affects our bond rating. So like, for example, we're like a AAA when we could be an A through Moody's. So if we have a healthy one, that is one of the considerations that they take when we do get our bond rating.
So it does have an effect on our ability to bond. Is that true?
Yes, you want to show that you're stable.
Yeah, you want to show you're stable. Okay, right. So what we did, what this committee did, and I'm not letting this go for a while. What this committee did was, Tanya, when we had about $1 million plus in stabilization requests from the Mayor Alex Morse, this committee said no to all of it. Thank God. And then we at this committee decided, by, I don't know how we came up with this. We decided to talk to bond counsel. I'm not sure why the mayor doesn't talk to bond counsel. I guess it's a question of showing up for work. But this committee of part-time people, except for John Hart, who's full-time, everybody on this Zoomer is part-time, to the best of my knowledge, except for John. And we came up with the idea to talk to bond counsel, and we figured out a better way to go ahead and finance the vehicles that we bonded for last week. And now, consequently, we can take this, which is, I have to say to Sergeant Hart, this is very reasonable, in my opinion. And then when you look at the total cost, Mr. Chairman, it's, I mean, at 1%, that's almost like free money. I hate to say it, but it almost is. So it's a very minor fee to the Holyoke taxpayers to get capital equipment for a critical need. So I'm not going to let that go. I'm going to say it every time we have these meetings that this is why we preserve stabilization, not because we're mean. It's just because we're thinking a little bit past our nose. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Leahy?
Muted.
Jim, if you're there, you're either muted or we're not picking up on you.
Sorry.
No,
Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, sorry. I was going to go down the same route as Councilor Bartley, but he eloquently put exactly what my comments were about that. But if I could, Tanya, through the chair, Tanya, how much do we have in the stabilization fund as of today?
Oh, it is. I thought I printed it out. I think it was like $15.1 million.
And a year ago today, how much did we have? You guesstimate, because I know if you don't have it in front of you.
I can say this, that over the past year, we gained $1.5 million worth of interest.
Okay, that's important to know. So I don't have a calculator in front of me. What do you know how much percentage that is?
No, I haven't actually done that math.
Okay. All right, I can do that later. Not a problem.
I can send you the actual figures after if you'd like as well.
Sure, that'd be kind. Thank you. How much total do we have every year for bonding? Meaning, like, for lack of better words, what is the number that we need to produce just to cover the bonding for the city?
So our bonding budget last year with the debt was, let me just find that page in the book. Debt in principal was $3,200,000. And the interest was the whole debt service is $4,728,901. That's long-term debt.
Okay, geez, I thought it'd be higher than that. That's okay. That's interesting. Geez, I thought it was much higher. So that's everything we bond for. If it's a fire truck or if it's
that's every bond payment. Yep, that's every bond payment that we make payments on right now. I can tell you we do have a couple of outstanding bonds that are in process, such as the traffic lights, the pool is not done yet. So we will see some more being added on in the next year.
Okay, let me ask you this. Does that also include bands?
So the bands, the interest for that's actually short term is $77,755 this year. That's what we budgeted it for.
Okay, and how does that track? How does that compare to prior years? Is that trending the same? Is it trending higher, trending lower?
For the amount of bonds that we took out, it's actually, it's the same. So it depends on how many millions of dollars in bands that you have out there. The last couple of years, we had some school projects out there that were like $12 million altogether. So we've been paying the bands and they just were completed this year. So we'll turn that into a payment next year.
Okay. All right, so that's good to know. That's helpful to know. And I think I know the answer to this, but if I could, through the chair, just let us know how much you have in free cash.
I don't have that paperwork with me, but it was, you mean like free cash for last year, 2020?
Yes.
It was like negative $364,000.
So negative 364,000. Okay.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Okay, and I know that we just closed the books. We had a great meeting on that, so so I appreciate your efforts with that. I appreciate all your information. Thank you. That's it. That's it for me.
Councilor Bartley. Dave, you're still muted.
I can't take this, Joe.
No, you're fine.
I can't take this Zoom stuff. It's killing me. Just to the chair, to the public service committee chair, I did happen to ask the auditor early in the week. Free cash as of FY20 was negative $346,831. Stabilization, the balance as of February 2021 is $15,746,562. Earnings on investments to date are $1,880,000.
Yes, thank you. She just said that. Yep, thank you.
If I could, Tanya, is there any reason with these numbers the way they are right now, is there any reason to talk about lease to own? Any financial reason?
No, because we could do a lease to own for 2 or 3 or 4 years, but the interest rate is probably not going to be as low as this bonding. And it's, you know, it's only a couple of years. So I would say this is fine.
Okay. And John, if I go Lieutenant Hart, if I could ask you a question, I just need to know more, but you said your proposal is not to take the 4 cruisers offline, but to use them for parts. Is there a trade-in value with these, the 4 you're taking off?
I don't know, that would have to be up to probably talking with Gino and the chief to see if they were if they'd be more valuable as a trade-in, or if they would be more valuable to our department to use for parts for the other older cruisers.
I mean, 2 thoughts, and I'm not an expert on this, but one is using for parts is one thing, but the you know, they're insured and registered vehicles right now, and
right.
I would think that, you know, you would get them off the rolls of insurance and would get them off the rolls of being registered, but that doesn't mean there isn't liabilities with them wherever they're stored and wherever they're kept. So I think you might want to seek some outside counsel, you know, maybe from the city's insurance agent or from someone else to make sure that that's a good idea. Also, I strongly encourage you to find out what the value is for trade-in, if there is a value, because even the, you know, some type of reduction of anything that when we have to borrow does help out with the interest.
Right, understood.
Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, Joe, I have my hand up.
Councilor Leahy, I thought it was still up. My fault.
That's okay. If I could, through the chair to Tanya, these cars aren't insured, correct? The City of Holyoke is self-insured, right?
Say that again?
These vehicles, this motor vehicles that we have in the police department, they're not insured, right? We're
They
self-insured.
are insured.
No, we insure vehicles. We don't
They're
insure a
insured.
lot of things, but we do insure
Tanya,
vehicles.
can you tell me who we insure those through?
Oh my, I don't know. I have a list of vehicles. I get the information through Dowd. So every year they give me a list of vehicles that are insured, the cost of the vehicles for the insurance for the year, how many are in what class. So
Okay,
that's
and how often do we go to bid for that?
I don't think we do. I don't know that we do go to bid for that. I think that's something that is we've had the same insurance since I've been here. I haven't seen a
Okay,
bid
so-
and I don't deal with that either. So
So, okay, so if we were to do that, how would the city councilor file an order, or how do we go about,
If I could answer that, Councilor Leahy, they're good questions. Insurance comes under the auspice of the mayor's department itself. The mayor does not have to go out to bid. They can choose an agent. They can choose a number of different ways of how they do it. They do it through purchasing, but the city council has no say in it.
I thought we changed that. I thought Councilor Jordan at the time had filed an order and it was approved for us to go to bid. For instance, like if you're working for the state and you have to put out for bid every 10 years a building, and so oftentimes offices move because of that. It's one way to keep make sure we know exactly what the price is. Would we get a better price somewhere else? That sort of thing. Okay. And the second thought was, I've been saying at this meeting, I'm about to say at this meeting, I've been saying it at every meeting that we have. I'm not for leasing to own. I think the interest rate is just too high. I'm for bonding. I think that this generation, our generation, and the next generation, because they're going to be using the vehicles, even though this is 3 years or so, I think it's a much better way. I voted
Jim, you're breaking up a little
taking
bit.
out stabilization. I'll continue doing that. But I'm all set. Thank you.
Councilor Leahy,
All set.
thank you. Just so you know, you don't have the best connection tonight. Your video is in and out, and your voice isn't bad, but it's in and out. And for the record, I agree with you
Okay.
on the
Thank you.
bonding with the rates the way they are. And the only reason I asked about the leasing is just to put it out for for discussion purposes to always explore, is there other options? But I think we knew that even before I asked the question. And when I answered your question about insurance, it's I understand bidding and I believe in bidding, but it's just the city council doesn't interfere with the mayor's purview over the insurance stuff itself. Although we have in the past asked for a number of things and gotten some good responses out of different room ones over the years, including spreading out the agents and the insurance agents and companies that are used. But it is
Okay. Thank you. I was just thinking of if I was overlooking my own personal budget, I want to make sure that I'm getting the most effective, most efficacious policy for the right amount of money. So I'm looking out for the taxpayers.
And I think every time a policy is updated, there should be a bid process for a lot of people to weigh in. But you know how that works too. Some companies will bid low in hope of getting it back over a period of time with the contract. Councilor Bartley.
I spoke to Councilor Murphy had his hand up, so I'll go after Terry.
Okay, Councilor Murphy, I don't see your hand, but Councilor Murphy.
There it is.
There it is.
Well,
All
I'm looking
right.
for the blue hands
I
because
wanted to wave to
he
you.
yells at me to look for the blue hands. I don't see these things waving right next to me.
Oh,
I don't have any. There's no blue hands. My hand's yellow.
That's not
No,
really your
I look
hand,
at
is
the
it?
blue hands under participant.
There's blue hands.
The yellow is never mind.
I
Councilor-
want to endorse even a 4-year lease for this reason. I mean, and I'm going back to the fact that if we took the money that we're not spending on the first 2 years and invested that in the stabilization fund, we would make more interest than we're going to pay on a 4-year bond. Based on a 7%, we would collect somewhere between, maybe $4,000 in interest over the same period that we're paying about $2,100 at that point. So I would just suggest that whenever we're looking at this, the 4-year bond to me makes sense because we're spending much less. We could take those funds each year, invest them in stabilization. We would make more money than we're paying in interest for the bond. But I do think we should bond for the longest point. And obviously I think we find there's a need here, so I would strongly suggest that we do it. We're not going to get better interest rates, and we're still making about 7 to 8% from what I understand on stabilization interest.
Thank you. Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, I just want to comment on the auto insurance. I think it's a great idea to put those things out to bid, because perhaps you could get a more competitive rate. But in this case, I don't think it has anything to do with local law. I think it has to do with 30B, and I'm pretty sure insurance is exempt from public bidding. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Chair will entertain a motion on the order before us.
Motion recommend approval.
Second.
Motion made second to recommend approval under Chapter 44 that the City of Holyoke with the Treasurer and Mayor enter into an agreement for the appropriated sum of $140,000 in the best deal possible to borrow that money for the purchase of 4 unmarked cruisers. If there's no further discussion, essentially what we're doing, as we always do with bonding, is approving what would be the purchase under the process as described here of the 4 vehicles, and that the treasurer, as in this language, very detailed tonight, will be allowed to make the best deal possible with the mayor's input and to reduce any of that bond at any given time by legitimate means. So if there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So
Aye.
moved. Thank you. Thank you, Lieutenant Hart. John, can you hold on for 1 second?
Yep, we got the SROs, right?
Item number 3. Motion made second to take off the table. All those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? This is a memorandum of understanding that came to us. It's between the Holyoke Public Schools and the Holyoke Police Department for their SOR officers. I'll just, before we turn it over to John to explain this, and to Tanya's with us here to talk about this. We had a lot of discussion about this during the budget hearings last June. And with the way it was in our budget and with the school department budget itself. And I think we sent a clear message that we want the schools, and they want, they believe they should be paying for SRO officers. It's a difference of how this happens. The MOU is required. The auditor wants the MOU. I think the police department wants the MOU, and I think we just want to have to, we're receiving it for the first time, but I think we have to understand it and just understand that it's within the budget itself. I'm going to stop there, let John explain why this is before us now, let Tanya explain the importance of it, and then I think we should have some questions and answers. Lieutenant Hart?
Okay, yes. So this came about in prior years. We had basically just a verbal agreement between the police department and the school department, and that agreement was for a set amount for 2 school resource officers. There was nothing written and nothing in place, and the past practice of that was that we would invoice the school department every month, and they would send us a check in the amount of that invoice, and we would deposit that check, and it would get put into the patrolman line item. However, that's not how it should go, because revenue through Tanya told us that practice is, I don't know if it's illegal, but it's prohibited to put revenue into an expense account. So we worked through the process, and last year's budget, we had budgeted, for 90 patrolmen. However, 88 was funded, and the other funding was for 2 patrolmen out of the SRO line item, and then that was cut. So essentially this year, we went through the year going back and forth, trying to find out the best way to do this and the proper way to do it. And Tanya figured that out, and we are finally able to resolve and put a MOU together to get that in place, which is in place now. And we have one worked up for next year. So this should be running smoothly by next year's budget.
John, I don't know who, and I know it wasn't Tanya, was the auditor that allowed the schools and the Holyoke Police Department to do it that way, because that is a no-no. Big
Yeah,
time.
that,
And be honest with you, it didn't just go into the patrolman's salary, because I looked this up. It also went into the overtime line item.
correct. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm glad we got an MOU for what we're doing now and what we're doing forward, but you know, there's no way that an auditor should have allowed that to happen. We're not going to mention any names. It's not our auditor present this evening, but that's why we need permanent auditors, and that's why we have our checks and balances in this city. But anyways, we appreciate you being forthright with that. And the MOU, Tanya, why is it an MOU is so important?
If I can just add a couple more things that may address that. Tanya wasn't aware of the duties and stuff of our SROs. So we have our SROs dedicated strictly to the school department. So we don't use them within our field operations or anything else. So they basically have a schedule similar to a teacher. But however, the billing was for the school years. So for 10 months they were billed, but the other 2 months they weren't billed for. But we kind of figured everything out and put everything together that it is a calendar or a fiscal year that these SROs are getting paid for by the school department and are solely used by the school department.
Did you want more information from me?
If you could just, I mean, we've kind of covered it, but on the MOU itself, this is the first time I've seen it. And even though we had a discussion during the last budget hearing, with the discussion you and I had this week, can you just let the city council and our listeners up to date on why the MOU is important and how you wish to see this work in the future, current and future?
So the MRO itself is obviously good for obvious reasons. But it does have the timeline, it has the school year, it has the dollar figure that the school budgets for and that, you know, they're willing to take the expenses for. But it also allows for me to charge the payoff directly to the school expense versus the police department line. So that actually frees up money in their budget. So from the beginning, if I have this from the beginning of the year, those officers will get charged straight to the school department from the beginning of the year, and the money stays in the police department budget so that they have it for their own policemen that are working in the field for them. Another reason I believe, like the lieutenant said, I didn't actually know what the responsibilities of the SROs were. So I just think that it's important to have all of that documented, to know, you know, where they are, where they're working. So their time is documented, when they're at the school, when they're not. That way it just keeps a good record of those officers for the city and their responsibility and accountability.
And this year, keep in mind with COVID closing schools for periods of time, did the SROs work full time for the 10 months?
Yes, they did. They still did meals every day at the schools.
Like at the high school where meals were beginning out?
Yes, yeah.
Is there any other discussion? And
Yes.
I know Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just trying to make sure I get an understanding of, so we have school resource officers, one in Holyoke High, one at Dean, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
Okay. And if we had not cut the budget, I just went through the patrolman budget, and the average pay for the 88 officers, who I'm assuming are working a full year and not if I'm hearing you correctly, the school officers only work when school's open.
Pretty much they run that schedule. So keep in mind that they're not really able to take vacations like a regular officer does, just because of the school calendar. So they're kind of, they take the majority of their time off during the summer like the teachers do.
But I mean, they get the Christmas break, I'd assume.
Yes.
I would assume if we were in a regular school year, they would get the Christmas break, they would get the February break, they would get the April break, and then they would get summer, as well as all the holidays and things. So, I mean, the pay that I'm seeing for those school resource officers, just based on what the contract was, but if I went by the budget, it's about $69,000. And the pay for all of the patrolmen averaging who are working a regular police shift year round is only averaging 62,000. So can you explain why a resource officer is getting another $7,000 on average, another $7,000, and certainly would appear to have more time off?
Right. So patrolmen are paid by tiers. Once they reach a certain amount of time, they get a pay raise up until they reach the final tier. So those balances are balanced out. The two SROs, excuse me, that we have in place. And again, keep in mind, you're looking at salaries. You're not looking at whether or not if they have a college incentive, whether or not if they have education or training. You're not accounting for their longevity. All those are calculated into their daily rate of pay that each officer gets per day. So those two officers, those SROs, are experienced officers with several years on the job. I think at least 10 or more, if not 15 or more years on the job. And that's why the pays are higher than
so 10 more years on the police department, not necessarily as a school resource officer, right?
Correct.
10 more on the police department.
Well, one I think it probably has over 15 years as an SRO.
Okay. And so let me just go again. I was always under the impression when they weren't in school, they were actually becoming part of our patrol force. So how much, can you tell me what a 10-year patrolman gets in terms of vacation time on a yearly basis?
I believe 10-year is 21 days vacation a year.
So again, I'm not trying. I have not heard bad things about SRO officers, so I want to make that clear. But it just seems to me like, okay, I want to be a school resource officer because I'm going to end up getting a lot more time than my colleagues who are out there working the streets. So I also just want to make one other thing, and this would be for Tanya. So I'm making the assumption that the 135,000 would just go to the general fund, which is supporting. If we just kept that in the police budget, then it would be supported by that amount.
Actually, what happens is I'm charging the salaries off to the school expense line in the general fund.
Okay.
So it all stays, the only one line item in the general fund budget can be charged for the school resource officers. They were charging them off to the police department budget, but now we're charging them off with this contract. We're charging them off to the school general fund expense line. So it's all staying in the general fund. It's just being charged. It's just being charged in one place.
Okay, it's coming from the schools to the general fund to pay for.
No, the school is in the general fund.
What's that?
The school's accounts are in the general fund. They have a personal services line and they have an other expense line within the general fund itself.
Okay, and one of those lines is for the school resource officers?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Counselor Greenie?
just quickly, school resource officers, I'm not sure, but generally speaking, if there's an extracurricular event like a basketball game or something like that, do the school resource officers work those details, or is it a regular police officer and fireman who works those details?
No, the school resource officer will work a lot of those details, but some of those details may be put out to bid under the outside detail.
But generally speaking, Lieutenant Hart, the school resource officer also has additional duties beside the regular school day. Is that correct?
Right. They participate in several drills, and they're not just strictly doing those two schools. They do every school within the city, going through active shooter drills. They do drills all year long, as well as work at those other two main schools.
Right. Okay. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Crystal, are you with us?
I am. I'm here.
Thank you. Our City Solicitor, Crystal Barnes, just a quick question on this particular MOU. The money's in the budget, which has already been appropriated. Do we still endorse this and adopt it?
If the money's in the budget, it's just a formality that it's being provided, because there wouldn't be any necessary transfer. You'd have to approve the appropriation, though.
Which is kind of an unusual situation where
The money's actually
this
there.
has been ongoing as far as the two budgets go. And last year we brought it up during the budget hearings and with some concerns that the police department side of the budget was paying for the school resource officers with no reimbursement, or as we found out now, there was reimbursement in the schools, but we didn't know about it because of the way they were doing it. So this is kind of rectifying that situation. And I guess we should suggest we adopt it and thus, solidifying the appropriations that are in both budgets. Does that make sense?
Right. How long is the contract for? I don't have it in front of me. Is it under 3 years?
No, it's annually. So each fiscal year we'll submit a MOU prior to the budget for the following fiscal
Okay.
year.
But there's no provision for renewal in the contract? It's just a single year contract every year?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just curious because that would have prompted city council approval as well. So
Got it.
it can't hurt. It can't hurt to take a vote.
Thank you. Did you sign off on this contract or an attorney working with you?
I don't believe so.
No,
And
it
who
was
represented the city?
it was the chief and the receiver at the time. The new one, or I think this one too, perhaps. No, I think this one was signed by the receiver, the previous receiver, but the new one going forward will be Anthony Soto.
You
If
need
I
the
could-
you need a city solicitor's signature on this.
Can I add to that? Because I did reach out and ask if the solicitor's office had to sign off on it, or if they had seen it in the solicitor's office. And I was told it was an interdepartmental contract, so that wasn't something that needed to happen. Maybe I misunderstood that information. I'm not sure. So
Okay.
We would only be signing off as to form. I mean, essentially, as long as the mayor or the receiver, I guess in this instance, would be signing on behalf of the school. It's really a formality determining responsibilities more than anything.
I agree with that. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page and doing it the correct way.
I don't see any issue here.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? The chair will entertain a motion that we approve the MOU interdepartment agreement between the public schools and the Holyoke Police Department.
Motion to approve the agreement?
Second.
Second.
If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
Mr.
Thank
Chairman?
you, John. I think that's it for you.
Yep, thank you very much.
Thank you again. As always, we appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman?
Councilor
Go ahead,
Bartley?
Yeah, just Councilor Leahy, I think we all know, he's just having some technical problems with his phone, okay?
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
just got a text from him and I hope he can stay with us, but we will give him some time
Okay,
to catch up if necessary.
thank you.
The next part of the agenda begins with item number 4, which is the mayor's announcement that Crystal Barnes is to serve as the acting city solicitor and a discussion about retroactive pay. The next 4 items are a proposal of where, if approved, the retroactive pay will come from. For purposes of discussion, would the committee like to take all items up at once? We'll take separate votes on the money transfers as opposed to item number 4. But I think for discussion purposes, it makes sense to take up together.
I agree.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So I'll just quickly summarize what I just said. Item number 4 is the communication from the mayor, was dated 4/3 this year, 2021. The appointment of Crystal Barnes to serve as acting city solicitor with retroactive pay. The proposals in front of us are item number 5 from special counsel 5,957 into pay city solicitor, from item number 6, special counsel 5,196 into the same city solicitor line item. Item number 7, special counsel 5,733 into the same city solicitor line item. And item number 8 is assistant city solicitor 19,755 into city solicitor 19,755. So under discussion, I think we should start with the mayor's letter. This is a little bit different than a typical temporary appointment, acting appointments. And I'll try and explain that why. And I learned a little bit of this myself today. Paul, I'm sorry, I lost it. Our last city solicitor, Paul Pear, left in October of 2018, if I'm correct. Is that right, Crystal?
Yes, that's correct. I have
Okay.
kids running around trying to stay on mute.
Sorry, it's when our city solicitor, when Paul Pear left, there's an ordinance that is specific to this position in this department, and is that for good reason. The ordinance reads, and I'm going to paraphrase it, Crystal, correct me if I'm way off base, that the senior assistant city solicitor becomes the acting city solicitor for purposes of filling the role of the city solicitor. And I've said this many times, I think everybody's tired of listening to me, that only the city solicitor can sign off on legal opinions. Anyone can write a legal opinion, but the umbrella and the importance of, and not just legal opinions, is the city solicitor makes a lot of different decisions, and we are required to have one. Now, for whatever reasons, we have not had a permanent appointment of a city solicitor since Paul Pear left, but this council, I think, and I've heard almost everybody here say it, we've recognized Crystal Barnes as not only our city solicitor, so to speak, but the attorney who's been doing the work in the city solicitor since October of 2018. For whatever reasons, Mayor Morse has finally recognized this, and the reason for this letter coming, I think he's recognized it over the years, but the reason for this letter is our city auditor was not okay in the acting out of grade, the city solicitor's pay grade for Attorney Barnes while she was doing the work. There is some debate there, some argument there that should have been automatic, but there was some confusion. There's been discussion about this both in front of us, but also with the departments themselves. And the purpose of this evening is to try to correct this wrongful, or maybe wrongful is not the correct word, but this misguided pay for a person who I believe, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn here or out of tune here, who has done the work since Paul Pear left as city solicitor. So there's two things in front of us. One, what we're recognizing is that Crystal Barnes has been performing the duties of the acting city solicitor, and two is how to correctly pay her for those duties. And the mayor is asking us to give this retroactive pay to her. And the budget department head of the budget, Crystal Barnes, and the mayor have proposed to do it from these line items, which I think are going to open up discussion themselves. But is there any questions about Crystal being the acting city solicitor and how that works? Councilor Bacon. Linda, you're muted.
Thank you again. My question is this is totally under the mayor's purview, is my understanding. And I'm wondering also if under acting in any capacity, we have limitations in the ordinances also.
Could I defer that to Crystal?
Yeah, I think we have a little conflict of interest on this matter here, but
well,
sure.
Maybe I understood your question.
So my understanding is that when somebody's put in an acting role, there are limits to how long that role can be acting before that is acted on. So I'm having trouble understanding how in 2021 we could possibly go back to 2018 and do something that would then be in place for 3 years. That is where I'm kind of stuck.
That's a very good question. If I can try and shed light on that, that's why I started off with the ordinance that we adopted. But the ordinance is the purpose of the ordinance is to address a vacancy with the city solicitor immediately. It's not the only department that has a similar type situation. Some historical ones there was a time when we had a deputy chief. If the chief of police vacated the position, the deputy chief took over the duties of the chief of police. We have language where now the senior captain takes over some duties of the chief of police if it's vacated. Our mayor vacates. We have charter language that says the city council president becomes the acting mayor for a period of time, according to how much time is left in the term. So when the mayor appoints temporary, which he just did, and if this makes any sense, the treasurer, he appointed Katie Jakowski to be the acting treasurer, because the assistant treasurer, who can take over the duties of the treasurer, also vacated her position, leaving that office without the two people who would be in charge of it. He bumped up the deputy tax collector within the tax collector's office, which I don't think he had to do, but he didn't want to recognize Debbie as taking over those duties. So it's the issue of the 90 days is a question which is something that, if you ask me, we should have a city solicitor, and the mayor should have put a permanent person in front of us and appointed a permanent person for this position, which I think is one of the key positions within city government. Mayor Morse did not do that over the last 2.5 years, is it now? And I have concerns about that. However, I also have concerns that whether she chose to or not, Crystal Barnes became the acting city solicitor, and I think more important, did the work of the city solicitor in her capacity as the senior attorney in that office itself. And that's where we are with two issues. Why don't we have a permanent city solicitor, and how are we going to pay the person who did the job, correctly over the last 2.5 years?
So if I may continue with my question, I understand the comments that you're making. The circumstances that you're describing are current events that will be resolved by elections. This is a completely different matter that is really only the purview of the mayor, regardless of what our ordinance may say in terms of who becomes acting in the role. It is only the mayor who can say that anybody is the city solicitor. And he knowingly and intentionally did not do it. And so I just don't see how we can go back in time under the rules that we operate on and under the other discussions that we've had with trying to go back in time to pay, in a much smaller example, say the administrative assistant for work provided that we all recognized. So I'm really stuck on this as a legal matter and as a authority matter relative to how long somebody could be acting, which I've just never seen or heard of anybody being acting for 2.5 years.
Mr. Chairman?
As her capacity with the senior person in the office, she has been acting not by choice or not by appointment, but by virtue of her position as the senior person when the city solicitor left. The only example I could give you to think about would be what happened with the city clerk not too long ago when the correct pay scale was not applied to the position according to, I believe that was according to Mass General Law, not even the city ordinance. And we were able, if I remember correctly, we were able to rectify that.
Well, in fairness, that was a separate stipend, and we did that by the choice of doing it. We were not required to do it because it went back so far.
But we did do it, going back that far.
Well, we did, but it was a decision made. It was not required in the circumstance, and it was a stipend. So it was a different matter. So I'm just, anyway, that's my concern on this matter, which is highly unusual. Thank you.
I agree. It's very unusual.
Mr.
And shame on the mayor. I mean, seriously.
Councilor Graney.
On his plate.
Yeah, just quickly, I don't want to throw a knuckleball into the situation here, but if we have an acting mayor and the acting mayor has the responsibility of the mayor, can an acting mayor appoint a full-time city solicitor?
Two ways to answer that, Councilor Graney, because I think that's going to come up, is if we do have an acting mayor, if that point ever happens, the acting mayor can fill vacancies of any position, but the acting mayor has to come to the city council with any vacancies they choose to fill. I can't speak for our president if he becomes acting mayor. If I were acting mayor, I would not permanently fill a city solicitor's position, knowing that there's going to be a new election somewhere in this calendar year, and knowing that a new mayor, it should be their prerogative to appoint the city solicitor. So I think in their scenario, acting city solicitor makes a lot more sense.
I understand that. That's a philosophical thing, Mr. Chairman. But the acting mayor could fill that position permanently if that acting mayor so desired. Is that correct?
Only if the city council confirms it.
With the city council approval.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify. Okay. All right, thank you. That sheds some light on the situation. Thank you, because who knows what's going to happen in the future? None of us has a crystal ball. Thank you.
You're welcome. Councilor Barley.
Right. So I thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm at a loss to understand this, whether it's unusual or not. So what we're saying is that for fiscal year 18, fiscal year 19, fiscal year 20, fiscal year 21, we know the person's doing the job. We voted on the budget that we did not once cut the party who's before us their salary, didn't cut the salary. We approved the salary every time that was put before us. So we voted on the budget, we approved the budget. And now what the mayor is saying, because there's $35,000 extra and other line items that they cobbled together with the law department, that we can backfill money for a job title that we all know she should have had, but she didn't have. I mean, in a budget year, in a municipality like Holyoke, where we just heard we had 346,000 in negative free cash, back-to-back fiscal years with negative free cash. That's probably, well, that's certainly a record for Holyoke. I don't know if it's a record for other municipalities. Now what the mayor wants to do is backfill and give a $35,000 check to somebody who may, by the way, if we approve this and the mayor signs it, that party can just say arrivederci on May 1st or April 1st or April 15th and take the 35,000 and sail on to the sunset for another job. Now that's a hypothetical. I have no idea if that's going to happen. I am more inclined that when the mayor or the acting mayor or whomever it is puts together a budget for FY22, that the party in question is compensated pursuant to the duties that the party in question has been doing, which we all know. I, for one, have never questioned whether the solicitor was the real solicitor. I know I never questioned it. And so I appreciate the work that she's done. I can't say we've agreed all the time. I can't say all our interactions have been pleasant, but for the most part, they've been professional and good. In this case, there is no possibility, there's no argument that I see to backfill somebody on a job title based upon woulda, coulda, shoulda. In good conscience, I cannot possibly vote for a $35,000 backfill on this. I will say, being a reasonable person, that if there was some kind of a reasonable difference, I could consider it. This is not reasonable, so I'm gonna beg off for right now. Whether I can get back in time for the meeting, but my vote on all this would be no. Thank you.
Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I have just a few questions, and they relate to what Attorney Barnes's actual salary was in each of those fiscal. And we're really talking right now. We're talking fiscal 19, 20, and 19 is 8 months. But I need, before I can consider whether or not I would come anywhere near this, I would need to know what Attorney Barnes was paid in fiscal 19 as opposed to the $65,975 that was in the budget for that position that was unfilled. The same thing for fiscal 20, and obviously what exactly she's getting. So I think we need to get those salaries to see what that is in comparison to what the transfers total, because that is, I came out 36,641. Maybe my math's not good, but that's a significant jump. And as I was trying to go through it and trying to figure it out, I came out that there's somewhere between, it could be anywhere from 12 to 5 or 6,000. I don't know which one. So I would need to know what Attorney Barnes' salary was for fiscal 18, 19, or excuse me, fiscal 19, 20, and 21, what her exact salary is, as opposed to the way it's in the budget. So thank you.
I think, Tanya, are you jumping in to answer that? And could you answer one more thing for us too? And that
Yes.
would be why you were looking for this letter, and maybe you have second thoughts about that?
I do have the information about the salary. So I can tell you that in fiscal year 2019, Crystal made $57,500. Should I even be saying this on, is that okay? Because it's public knowledge.
It's public, yes, it's public record.
The assistant solicitor in fiscal year 2020, 60,000. And in fiscal year 2021, 68,070.
68,070?
That's correct.
Okay.
And I actually have the calculations if you'd like me to send them to you at some point.
Maybe let me just go. I'll do a little math here, but I'm good. Thank you. I just wanted to get those statistics so I can kind of work my way through. Thank you.
Tanya, what is the base salary for our last city solicitor? What's the range?
75,823 was what we budgeted for fiscal year 2021. Every year it was different though.
It probably because it would be within a range from beginning to, scaled as the year's experience, went on.
Correct.
I thought the letter we got indicated that for FY 19 and 20, it was 65,975 for both of those years.
That's right. And then in 2021, it went up to the 75 and 23. That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And Tanya, on this appointment part, can you tell us prior to this letter coming forward, has there been any discussion on paying Crystal Barnes the pay of the city solicitor as she was doing the duties of the city solicitor, and what was the holdback?
Yes, I'm not sure what the holdback was, but I mean, there was much conversation about the acting pay because she was holding the responsibilities for this position. And for somebody to do that, I mean, you should be paying them for the job that they're doing. So I needed documentation to be able to do that, though. So that's what I was looking for.
That's the part, the documentation being the mayor approving the pay?
Yes, of course, the mayor would have to approve it as the appointing person.
And were you aware of the city ordinance that talks about the senior assistant solicitor being the city solicitor in the times of vacancy?
I am now.
Does that make a difference the way we pay someone?
I mean, it would be a difference. Yes, absolutely.
So is it fair to say that Crystal Barnes should have been paid this money with, from the get-go when she took over the duties?
Yes, absolutely. We did. We let her take on that responsibility. We let her sign contracts. We let her supervise staff. So yes, she definitely should have been receiving this pay.
Not just for all those reasons, but the fact that she acquired that responsibility by virtue of being the senior person when Paul Pear, left the city.
Correct.
I'm trying to be the devil's advocate and pull all this out so that we all get on the same page, because this is unusual in terms of the type of business we usually conduct before us. But I think it's important to understand the history of it and important to make the right decision. Councilor Sullivan?
Yes, thank you. Tanya, can you tell me how much is in the special counsel, the 53010 account?
I actually don't have that in front of me right now.
All right. If anybody can help me with this, Joy, it seems to me just a short while ago, within the last month or so, we had to transfer money into that account to make payments to outside counsel and special counsel.
That's correct, Councilor Sullivan. One payment in that particular line item is our new labor counsel, Russell.
I know who you're talking about.
Dupre. But I'm trying to think of, Crystal, you can talk about this. It's not a stipend. What is it when we hire someone?
So he's actually contracted, and the funds are there. He's contracted at a flat rate per month. So the funds to pay our contractor there, as well as our bills that are current, the funds will still be there. The transfer that was requested was an estimate to get us through the end of the fiscal year. And those bills have not yet been submitted. There will also be extra money in 2 other line items in our office because we've had 2 other employees resign. So I will let you know ahead of time, there's going to be another shuffle at the end of the budget year, or at the end of the fiscal year, to move money from those line items, more than likely into outside counsel, just for the mere fact we're short yet another attorney. So I imagine we will be using more outside counsel to get us through the end of the fiscal year still. But those line items are going to be vacant. The problem is there's no excess money now, but there's a knowledge that money is going to be there, considering we don't see hiring anyone for at least another month or 2. And at 2 positions, that's, quite a bit of money. So basically it's just a round robin. We're going to pull money from special counsel into this. And then money from those empty line items will then go into special counsel. But without the money actually there right now, I can't do that now.
Are you saying at this moment in time, you're not looking for money from outside of your budget?
Correct.
But
It's all
you look for
internal,
legal-
and I expect it to all continue to be internal.
Okay. Counselor Sullivan, sorry. I just want to make sure I heard what I heard.
Yep. No, it answered my question. I'm all set, Joe.
Counselor Bacon. Linda, you're muted again.
Thank you. So from my perspective, I am very supportive with the mayor's appointment of our person who has been acting in this role as the acting city solicitor. And I think we can, and we could deal with it in this fiscal year for this fiscal year. I do not see where I see the authority for all of this lying with the mayor. We went through 3 budget cycles with the approvals and the debates and the discussion over the pays for the position being debated in a public forum, with the mayor consciously deciding not to appoint the person as the acting city solicitor. Regardless of what the ordinance states, a vacancy also has a definition, which doesn't extend to 2.5 years from my best recollection. So, I mean, I think it's within our purview, given the mayor's current appointment to the position, to act in this fiscal year. I just don't see how we can go back to 2018 and 2019 and 2020, but I think we could make the person whole in this year because we have the money in the budget. And in this year, the mayor has put the person in the position. This has always been known and understood without question to be a mayoral appointment. And only the mayor can determine who is the city solicitor, not the city council. So I don't think he can have it both ways. And this is on the mayor. It's not on the city council. Thank you.
Counselor Murphy?
Yeah, I agree. This is something that the mayor should have done. I do think in this case, the person has done the work, has accepted it. From what I've seen in my couple of years back, and done a very professional job. The one thing I try to do some math here. There's one transfer here that's for $19,755, which I think is much closer to the figure that would have covered had she been paid at the city solicitor's salary for the 2.5 fiscal years that we're talking. And again, I could be off a couple hundred, but I'm counting 19,500 something based on 2/3 of the year of fiscal 19 and the salary. So, I mean, I do think, and I don't disagree with what Councilor Bacon says, that this was a case where the mayor should have taken care of this a while ago. But in a view that you try to treat people fairly, and in this case, this person has done this and done a good job, and not, from my knowledge, not complained. I still think we should try to provide her at least with the difference of what the pay would have been had she been paid as the acting city solicitor. So, I mean, I could support that 19,000 transfer. I'm not sure I could support the others because I don't see how they add up. Thank you.
Tanya, if I could ask you a question, you still with us?
Of course.
Okay. We have, both by ordinance and by budget, salaries assigned to positions. The city solicitor was assigned a salary during this period of time. There's a base salary, and I believe it's I don't know what it is, but it's certainly one of our, not sliding, but there's a scale to it.
Yeah, there's a range.
Range, thank you.
And the department head schedule, there's a range, yes.
Okay. Now, when you pay we have money in front of us being transferred into a line item. When you pay an individual, when you pay this individual as to what this individual would have been paid for each of these years, what salary are you using?
I'm using the appropriate salary for each year. So the budgeted salary for fiscal year 19, fiscal year 20, and fiscal year 21, I did the retro based on those years' salary. I don't know if that's the answer to your question.
Well, when you say you did the retro, how did you calculate it? Did you minus what Crystal got paid those years from
Yes.
what? Okay, so the numbers in front of us equal
The
if
difference.
Crystal were to have been paid the city solicitor salary for each of these years, it adds up to what the pay would have been according to what she did get paid.
Actually, in fiscal year 2019, it was only, she made two different salaries. So one was for 22 days, one was 153 days. It was 175 days, not for the full working year.
Okay,
You know what I mean? So it's not the total difference between one and the other.
I hear you. I'm not going to say I fully understand, but what I'm getting at is you can't pay her. You can only pay her what she would have got. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So do these numbers add up to that?
Yes.
Okay. Council Murphy, you're shaking your head no?
Yeah, well, I'm going by the basis, if she got paid in FY19, 57,500, and if the salary was 65,975, that comes out to 8,475. If you
That's that's why I wanted to say what, and I don't mean to interrupt you, so I apologize. So I'm just looking at my sheet right now. From 10/27 to 11/28, her salary was 57,500. But from 11/28 to 6/30, it was 58,363. So until 11/27 was 22 days and 153 days at the other salary. So I misspoke.
Okay, now you got me confused.
At the beginning of the year, she made one salary, and at the end of the year, she made another salary.
Okay.
So the 57,500 was the beginning of the year, and the 58,363 was at the end of the year. But when I was looking at the sheet, I only picked up the first number when I gave you the first information. I'm sorry about that.
So let me ask you this then, if you can do this. So from October 30th, 2018.
Yeah.
How much money did Crystal make from that? Can you give me that? That would be 2/3 of the fiscal year. Because again, going on the basis of the first number you gave me, even adding up all those numbers as if it was a year basis, it only comes to 22,203. But then when I took the 57,500, assuming that was, and again, I see the correction you're making, but that would mean that she's already gotten paid for 1/3 of the fiscal year. So the adjustment would only be for the last 2/3, which reduced that 8,475 to 5,650, which is how I came out with the 9,500.
So the way I did it is by a daily rate. So what I did was I took the daily rate of the solicitor budgeted, and then I took the daily rate of what she was making. So I did it all in days. It's more precise. And it wasn't a full year. Like I said, from Paul Payer didn't leave the city until 10/26/2018.
Yeah.
So for the fiscal year 2019, the difference for the first 22 days, the 10/27 to 11/27,
yeah,
it was $717. That's based on the daily rate. And then from 11/28 to 6/30, the daily rate was $253.75 versus the $224.47 for 153 days, which is $44.79. So I took the total daily rate, subtracted her daily rate, and I times it by the days that she worked. That's how I came up with the figures.
Okay.
I can, like I said, I can send you the spreadsheet, and I think you'll probably be able to look at it and see what I'm saying. It's
Yeah,
hard to really.
I have to see that. I mean, I still come out.
I'll send it over to you.
She's got 19,000 that I would be comfortable with, because I think that's pretty close to what she should have gotten had she been appointed city solicitor or been
So that would be for this year.
Huh?
That's for this year, because the salary for the city solicitor went from 65 to 75. There's a big jump there, you know, in the
However,
difference.
she's getting paid 68,070, so she's only got a $7,753 difference.
Right. That's correct.
Yeah. So again, I'm saying for each of those fiscal years, none of them come to 10,000. So there's no ways less than 3 under 10 can come to 36.
So the daily rate is 29.70 times 193 days is 5,733 for fiscal year 2021. The difference in the daily rate is $29. 290 to 260. I can show you.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going again. I'm going to go by what's on the budget. Said 75,823, and you told me she's making 68,070. So daily rate or non-daily rate for that year, the total difference would be 7,753. So you
right, because the whole year she's going to be working. So that's correct.
Yeah. So yeah,
the whole year she'll be working.
Yeah. Send me the spreadsheet.
The total for 2020 is 15,823.
Fiscal year 2020 is 5975, which is the difference between the two salaries.
Yeah, correct. I'm right there on that one.
No, you're right on that fiscal year 2021 too. It's the whole year. It's the difference between the two salaries.
And the partial year, how much?
I just had to put it separately because some is retro and some is what we're going to pay her in the future.
Well, for the rest of this year.
The rest of the year, 19,755. That's right. The rest of this year.
Sure.
But that's already budgeted.
Is there any money in the line item right now?
Solicitors?
Yeah.
No, it was transferred into special counsel.
Okay, so there is no money in the solicitor's line item now.
Correct.
And how much money for fiscal 2019? Just the dollar figure?
2019, 5196.
So,
and I put them all on separate orders.
And then the item number 8 is the 19,000. What is that for?
Yeah. The 19,000 will cover from now to the end of the year.
Okay, so the 19,000 is not retroactive. It's re-putting the money in the line item to pay a city solicitor.
Which will include the salary she actually has now, plus the difference, if that makes sense.
Oh.
It's her whole it'll be the whole salary for 3/28 to 6/30.
I think I'm starting to see it, but let me see if I'm correct. So the retroactive pay is $16,886.
16,905. I have a rounded number probably, but yes, about that.
16,900. All right, I have 16,886, and you're saying 16,905 for
Correct.
2.5 years of retro pay. The 19,000 is for the rest of this year because there's no money in this line item whatsoever at the moment.
To include the salary we actually pay her already, that $19,000. I need to move that from the associate into the solicitor so I can pay her out of that line. So that's maybe also what Counselor Murphy is saying.
Okay. It answers my questions in a sense of fairness. I think we need to pay the city solicitor her just due. Is there any other discussion? Counselor Bartley?
Is there a residency requirement involved for the city solicitor?
Yes, there is. That's why she's being the acting, because she cannot be the city solicitor permanently. And I don't even, I'm not going to speak for her, but I don't even know if she would accept it. She's doing the duties of the city solicitor because we do not have a permanent one, and she's the senior person.
Right, but yeah, except nobody wants to speak up about the mayor except for certain counselors.
I think we can all speak up about the mayor, and I've let them know. I've been talking about the city solicitor position for over 2 years now. And I've said it. I've said it. We need a city solicitor. And I think when I said it, I was chastised because people thought I was criticizing Crystal Barnes. I wasn't. I have nothing but respect for her. But I know, and I've said it, we need a permanent city solicitor for a lot of reasons. Tonight isn't about that. Tonight is about paying the correct salary to a person who did the job. And we've all recognized that over the since Crystal was assigned to us as the attorney who works with the city council, we have recognized her as our liaison and as our go-to person. And now I'm thinking in the sense of fairness, we pay her for what she did for the entire city by doing the job of the city solicitor, even though it wasn't her job.
Yeah, I disagree with that characterization completely. So I would say that I would say we pay the person the job which she's is posted in. I don't understand. So certainly the funds going forward from this point on, I would agree with. Even though we have to use acting because the person in question does not live within the city. So we have to use the acting. And now what we're saying is that because this person, was in the job, but wasn't budgeted. Well, now we should see, I disagree with that 100%. So I know we're going to take separate votes. I know we took them all together. So I'll happily vote for the prospective budget. That's fair because you're going to be in the new position. We have to have a city solicitor, whether it's acting or not. But the retroactive, that is not on us. That is not on the city taxpayer. That is on the mayor, and whomever else made the decision about the budget. That is, I don't think. I won't vote for it. So we'll let the cards. Oh, but one question: what do we need for a vote on this? Do we need 2/3?
2/3 for the transfer. It's a simple majority if both readings are done on separate evenings.
Okay. So we can already see how that game's going to go. So if
it's
we
not a game, Councilor Bartley. That's general law, which is important because
that's procedural law, Mr. Chairman, that you've used over the years to play a game, and we all know it's a 2/3 vote. It's a 2/3 vote if we vote it that way.
No, the only reason it makes it a 2/3 vote is if we do 2 readings on the same evening. Any further discussion? Councilor Bacon.
Thank you. I guess the only other point I would make is, or the question that I would have is, if this is passed, then it looks to me like we will have overexpended the budget that was authorized and approved for this fiscal year. I don't see how we can do this because we will be exceeding the budget. So I can see how we can make her whole this year at the 75,823. I don't see how we can spend more in the line than we have. We've already been written up for that in our audit. We can't overexpend our budget lines. So I'm stuck. I've been stuck on that from the beginning. I have nothing against the person, but we just can't go back in time. I just don't see how we can do it, especially when we're broke. And we're going to have to pay for this going forward too. I mean, we'll be in a situation where we'll be able to afford even fewer attorneys in the office. So I don't know. I think it's fair to make her whole this year and give her the pay, but I don't see how we exceed our budget and do it. I just don't see the path. Thank you.
Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, and I hate to keep, I'm just totally befuddled here. So, Attorney Burns' salary right now is paid under the assistant solicitor line item, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So we're only trying to make up, if we are dealing with just, I'm gonna just do a fiscal 21 for now. So if I'm
Correct.
just dealing with fiscal 21, I just need to make up $7,753.
Correct.
So I don't get why we have a $19,755 transfer.
Because I'm taking her salary from the associate solicitor line that we're paying her now
Yeah.
and putting it into the solicitor line so I can pay her out of the solicitor line as being acting solicitor. So the retro itself is $16,905, but you have to consider her salary for the rest of the year, her regular salary, that's being transferred into the appropriate line as well. So that's the whole thing. That's her whole salary. That's her associate plus the difference between for the acting. That's why that large figure is there, because that's a whole salary figure. That's not just the difference. Because we'll have to pay her wages out of that line,
So
the
you're
whole
saying
wage.
that 19,755 then is to adjust the pay for the rest of the fiscal year as if she was working to get the 75,823 for the whole year.
That's correct. So I'm just taking the difference and I'm taking it from the associate solicitor line and putting it into the correct pay line out of the associate solicitor. So some of it's the pay she's receiving already. I'm just putting it in a different line.
So how much of it is the pay she's receiving already?
The difference between I didn't do that calculation. Let's see. The 50 for this year, the retro is 57.33. The additional is 2020, which comes to a total of 77.53.
Yeah.
So I'd have to take that 77.53 and add it onto the daily rate that she's making right now for the same amount of days and add that to it. And that's how I'm coming up with that 19,000. It's her assistant pay plus the 77.53 that goes into that line. Does that make more sense?
I'm getting there, I think. But it doesn't, it still doesn't add up, because if she's, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I just trying to figure this out. I would like to
Don't
be.
be sorry. We're not voting. We're voting on putting money into a line item. The auditor, payroll, and everybody can only pay according to what is due. Even though we transfer the money, they can't pay more than what is due.
So we're trying to transfer what she's got left in the assistant solicitor line item to couple that with $7,753, which is what she should have been getting paid if she was the acting city solicitor.
So I can tell you, I just did the calculation for you.
Okay.
$17,735.
17,000 what?
$17,735.
Yeah.
Of that $19,000 is her actual salary right now.
That's what she's got left for this fiscal year.
Correct. In what she's making today.
Correct.
Yep. So 17,000 of that 19 is her regular salary put into a new line so I can pay her out of the correct line.
But then how are we getting to get the fiscal year 7,753?
We're going to give her 57.33 of retro plus the 16 plus her regular salary. So all of these are going to go into the solicitor's line. I don't know if I can answer it better than that.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just out of it, Mr. Chairman. I can't quite get this. I want to support something, but I just can't quite get it.
If anyone wants to support it, you know, the calculations are going to have to be done according to what is due, not according to what is transferred in. And we know by ordinance the salary structure of both positions. We understand the issue of the historic. With due respect, you know, there's a difference of opinion on taking care of the prior years, but the sense of fairness, I think we all agree to. You know, and the calculations, you know, will be left up to the auditor and to payroll. Any further discussion?
I have one more question. Thank you. So through the chair to Tanya, if all of these transfers are approved, what will the total expenditure on the city solicitor line be?
Additional or total?
Total for the year.
36,659.
No,
That's the total of all the transfers. 16,905 is the retro. Then the 2020, 19,755.
thank you.
May I say one thing? Councilor Murphy, I sent you my calculations via
Okay.
email.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve number 8.
Can we, Councilor Bartley, if you don't mind, we need to vote individually, I agree. But if we could just start with number 4, I don't think it requires any action from us other than to receive that the mayor has appointed her and is
Motion
in favor
received.
of the retroactive phase.
Second.
Motion made second that on number 4, we did receive the mayor's letter communicating to us. Crystal is the acting city solicitor and he's in favor of the retroactive phase. All those in favor? Any opposed? So moved. Does anybody want to do 8 separate first and then do 5, 6, and 7? Is that what you're asking?
Can we start with
I made
5?
the motion, but I didn't have a second, so.
All right, then why don't we just go one at a time? I think we understand all the good debate and good arguments. Item number 5 is a transfer of $5,957.
I'll make a motion to approve the transfer.
Second, motion made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? On approving the transfer, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Councilor Leahy? All those against? Okay. On item number 6, Chair recognizes a 2-2 vote. On item number 6, it's $5,196. Chair will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the transfer of 5,196.
All right, I'll second that. Is there any further discussion? On the motion, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Oh,
2-2. On item number 7, $5,733.
I'll make a motion to approve the transfer of 5,733 from special counsel to city solicitor.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
no,
Councilor Barley?
Oh, I said no.
Okay, I just couldn't hear you. 2-2. And on the final vote, item number 8 is the $19,755.
I'll make a motion to approve the transfer of 19,755.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
Could I just ask a question?
You may.
So if the transfer, or if the transfer were just, well, I guess we don't have many other place to put it, but so in order to pay as the acting city solicitor, all those transfers have to go to the city solicitor line item?
Right now, Very good question. And this is what I stated 2 minutes ago. All we're doing is transferring money into the city solicitor line item. They'll be paid accordingly the way they are due, not accordingly the way that we discussed this evening, although this evening's discussion is important. So we're putting money into the line item account. They will cut the checks accordingly to what is due. We can't change that. We're not acting. We're looking at a situation where a person is now the acting city solicitor and gets an X amount dollar salary.
So what would happen, or if, let me ask if this is even legal, maybe it's not, but so what would happen if we, and again, I'm going to the idea that we would owe based on salary approximately $19,000 some odd dollars. If we put that into the city solicitor's account, and then had a separate transfer for 17,000, I guess they still add up. I
mean, I don't mean to stop you, Councilor Murphy, because I understand your question. Your question is very important to understand this. We are not acting on anything but a transfer within a budget.
No, I understand
what was discussed this evening. Whatever we say yes to or no to, whatever goes into that line item can be used, if it's legit, according to the auditor and according to payroll and according to the ordinances and the salary.
So, I mean, we could approve all these, and in effect, we're not saying that the city solicitor's salary should end up being, because if I add all these up, we're probably talking a city solicitor salary of 95,000 or whatever. Not that it shouldn't be raised, but we're not. And then at that point, let's say Crystal leaves, is the next person is that where that person is gonna get paid?
No.
No.
The mayor appoints the city solicitor. There is what is the code for the solicitor's pay? Our DH.
What do you mean?
DR 22.
DR 22.
DH 22.
That's the salary range that the mayor can choose to start a person at. They can only pay what's in the budget, of course, but they can only pay what's within that salary range. Now, will the mayor start at the high end of the salary range as the appointing authority? Only the mayor can say that. We're not changing the salary. We're putting money somewhere so it can be used for what we've identified as a mistake over the last 2.5 years. And we're putting the money into that line item, and then accordingly to the ordinance, accordingly to the budget, the paychecks can come out of that line item.
Mr. Chairman?
1 second, Councilor Bacon. Does that answer your question, Councilor Murphy?
Yes, yeah, I'm getting there.
Okay, Councilor Bacon.
Councilor Bacon.
So through the chair to Tanya, is it correct that if this last motion passes, that it will allow the acting city solicitor to be paid the salary of 75,000 plus for the remainder of the fiscal year?
That's 328 to 630.
So that's, yes. If this motion that's on the floor is passed, it
Yes.
will allow the acting city solicitor to be paid at a salary rate of 75,000 plus through the end of the year. Yes?
Yes. Correct, yes.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? On the motion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0. Now, just a little clarification, but right now we have reports going out of committee, 3 reports that are 2-2, no recommendation to the full city council, and 1 report that passed 4-0.
2-2 is a denial.
What's that?
A tie vote is a denial.
No, it's not.
No,
No?
It's not in committee. It's not. Does it? I'm throwing this out because I think we sometimes, mix this up, and I do myself. Don't get me wrong, but is there any other discussion on these line items? Okay, moving on.
motion to take item 9 off the table for discussion.
Second.
Motion made second to take item 9 off the table for discussion. All those in favor? Any opposed? Moving into the DPW, with us is our Superintendent, Mike McManus. This is a request for a transfer of $35,000 from Forestry Services, $2,720 from Snow Removal Services, for a total of $37,750 to Snow Removal Services. Under discussion, Mike, could you walk us through the transfer?
Can't hear you, Mike. You're on mute. Mike.
Thank you.
Okay.
So this transfer request originally was to do the lease to own for a new forestry vehicle. That vehicle was included in the bond that you guys had approved at the last city council meeting. So now I'm asking to transfer it into snow removal services. This is our expense account for snow removal. We're not allowed a deficit spend this year. We haven't gone into deficit, but we do have a number of bills that we need to pay, and this transfer would allow us to pay some of those bills.
Mike, can you just explain the 2007-20, the difference in that line item and the one it's going into? They're different codes, but they sound the same.
Yeah.
Contract forest.
No, the second part of it, the 2007-20.
14301. So 14301-51106 is not snow removal services. 14301 was it 511?
That was my typo. That's waste recycle coordinator. I made a typo on that one.
Okay, there's a surplus in that line item for?
Yeah, it's a labor position where the person's been out on the IRB.
Okay. And the surplus in forestry, you did explain to us at the last meeting, but can you just explain that a little bit more?
Sure, this is the line that we would use to hire Asplund to come in, but with the new tree truck, we would make it a point to go out and actively take care of trees in-house.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the transfer?
Motion made second to approve the transfer. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries 5-0. Thank you. Item number 10.
I think Jim's here.
Item number 10 off the table for discussion.
Second.
Motion made second to take item 10 off the table. All those in favor? Any opposed? This is a proposal from Highway Bridges Demolition Workers, $4,682. Total amount to split, $3,232 to Engineering Vacation Buyback and $1,450 to Refuse Recycling Longevity. On that proposal, Mike, could you walk us through it, please?
Sure. So this position, the demo worker, it was filled at the beginning of the year, but that person has left DPW and gone to the waterworks. We haven't been able to fill in that position. So we're able to transfer money from that into these other two items, the vacation buyback for the city engineer, which was per his CBA, if you will. He was able to sell back unused vacation. It was greater than what we had budgeted for. And the same thing with longevity from the refuse and recycling department. They were due longevity that was greater than what we had budgeted for.
In other words, the vacation buyback is with the permission of the department head under COVID guidelines.
Yeah.
You can buy back because during COVID, it was hard to use vacation time. And I think we've seen this before, but I'm a little off on the longevity for the recycling. Is that just under budgeted that you need it, or is there something happened?
No, it was either under budgeted or we had missed a couple of people when we were doing our calculations for the retro when their contract was finally agreed to earlier this fiscal year.
How many people come out of this line item?
The refuse and recycling.
Yeah.
Longevity.
Four.
So there's 12 people in that, but I don't think all of them are due longevity yet.
Okay. Tanya, you with us? Tanya's always with us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tanya?
She's there. She's on mute.
I think she's feeding the dog.
Maybe.
Okay, I'll catch up to her. I just wanted to just to get the correct numbers of the people that get longevity. Not a big deal, but in case it's asked next week. Is there any further discussion on this transfer? Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, just a quick question regarding the demo worker, Mike. When do you expect to get a person back in? I think we're operating with just one person right now.
Well, yes and no. We're operating with one person who is the demo and building maintenance supervisor,
yep,
who is staffed by the building department.
Right.
We also
they work with your demo guy, right? Typically.
They did work with this demo guy, yes. We also have another guy in DPW as a supervisor who's trained for asbestos removal, so he can help out. I would love to get this position filled. I just need. Do
you know where it is in the advertising process?
It's not being advertised right now, so we need to get permission in order to advertise it.
Okay. And is it the mayor or the human resource that's not giving you permission?
It's somewhere in there, yes.
Okay. All right. And I certainly would encourage them to do that. Obviously, they've done a good job in the past. They've saved us money. They keep moving buildings that would need to be moved. So I hope that they will say, let's get it advertised and let's get someone in there so that we can start removing buildings at a lower cost and get buildings that should not be still standing removed. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion?
The motion to approve the transfer.
On the motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. 4-0.
Motion to take items 11 off the table for discussion.
Second.
Motion made second to take item 11 off the table for discussion. This is a request for $10,000 from Refuse HMEO to other services known as temporary seasonal services. On that motion, off the table, all those in favor? Any opposed? Mike, can you walk us through this, please?
This is the transfer that we were going to use to fund the temporary workers that we have. I used another fund that was already in DPW's budget to start that contract, so that we could use these people for the last 2 weeks because there was a delay in getting this transfer request to you guys.
Is there an agency out there that works with the type of individuals that you need for this?
So the agency that we're using, People Ready, provides day labor, and that's meets our needs.
Okay. I'm just curious, you know, I mean, labor, you know, comes in many different forms. I just didn't know, sometimes they specialize in it. Is this a Hoyoke agency on High Street or?
No, they're out of Springfield, but I believe they're a national company. And I've had conversations with Roca recently, and they are open to helping us out with this.
Good.
I think in the future, we'll bring them on board as well. Not completely.
I think that's a change of heart.
Yeah.
Councilor Tallman?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mike, through the chair, this money, will it fund the temporary workers for how long, or is it already, they've already worked the time?
No, they haven't worked the time yet, but I don't think it would take us through the rest of the fiscal year.
Right.
So I'll be coming to make requests occasionally to try to add more money into the account.
And what, these funds are from within your department, right?
Right. Right.
Okay. And I'm glad to hear that you're possibly using Roca. I think a couple of my colleagues stated that, you know, that might be a good way to help some of the people out of work for a number of weeks ahead of us with the trash pickup and hopefully recycling down the road. Thank you.
But good for 1 minute, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Murphy?
Yeah, Mr. McManus, Mike, I want to just thank you. I think we have gotten to the point now where we're pretty close in terms of trash collection and recycling. And I know it's been a tough effort, and that communication has gotten a whole lot better. And I just want to continue I want to thank you first for getting that done. And then I want to also encourage that we continue that communication like we've been doing and keep promoting that information out to the community. But I just want to thank you. And I think hiring the temporaries and working with Roca also gives the Roca people maybe a chance where they end up coming and becoming, at some point, maybe they become full-time employees with you and have the training to start with. So I think all those things are good. We obviously had problems, but they seem to be resolved, and I thank you for that.
But if I can on that, Councilor Murphy, I think you had said that we would be on schedule by the end of this week at a recent city council meeting.
Yep.
We were on schedule yesterday, but we lost it today. So there's a little bit of trash behind Save-A-Lot, an hour's worth of trash that we'll get tomorrow morning. And then for recycling, I think it's Gilman to maybe Lawler Street that needs to get picked up for recycling. But unless we have a couple of trucks go down tomorrow, by the end of the day tomorrow, we'll be back on schedule.
Okay, and I appreciate that. Again, I also said, if we do get behind in the future, we just need to make sure people are aware of it, and we need to make sure that we don't just cancel them so that they end up having stuff built up. So as long as we're doing those things and knowing that's what we're trying to do, again, I know it's not an easy job, but it's a challenge, but it's a challenge we have to accept and be good at. So thank you. And I appreciate the fact that you're still letting me know about the other stuff.
Any further discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve the transfer.
Motion and second to approve the transfer. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
All right.
Say aye. Any opposed? 4-0.
Motion to take item number 12 off the table for discussion.
Second.
Motion made second to take item number 12 off the table for discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The request to transfer $35,000, $30,494 for parking control officer, $4,506 from waste recycle coordinator to refuse repair and maintenance vehicles, $30,000, parks repair and maintenance vehicles, $5,000, for a total of $35,000. On this request, Mike, could you walk us through it, please?
Sure. So the two positions, parking control officer, there were two positions that were approved at the beginning of the fiscal year. One was filled with an existing employee. We never advertised, we never tried to fill that second position. So it's remained empty through the year. And then the waste recycling coordinator is the person who's out on IRB. So that money going into the refuse R&M vehicles. This is for our trash and recycling trucks, the maintenance that we do in-house, and also that we have to send out to a dealer. We started out the year with $80,000 in the budget. We currently have $4,000 in the budget left, $4,600. So $30,000 would go a long way to get us through the rest of the year. And then parks, we started off the year with $10,000 in the budget, and we have $300 remaining in the budget. So another $5,000 would be helpful.
Any discussion or questions? If not, on the motion to approve.
Motion to approve the transfer.
Made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 4-0.
Motion to take item number 14 off the table.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to take item 14 off the table. 14 or 13? I'm getting lost.
13.
13.
It's a request for $11,750 from Highways, Bridges, and Demo Worker to Auto Equipment Maintenance Overtime. On that motion, Mike, could you walk us through it, please?
So we've already talked about the demo worker position previously. The auto equipment maintenance overtime, this is for all of our mechanics. They all come out of the same overtime pool. We started off the year with $12,000 in the budget. We've exceeded the budget by $8,000, so we're $8,000 in the hole right now. And this money would cover that and give us a little bit more for the rest of the year.
Did the auditor yell at you?
She does, yeah, which is why we're here.
No. But understanding your budget, Michael, I don't know how you do it sometimes. Is there Councilor Tallman?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mike, you stated that you overspent that, but how does that happen? I mean, I'm just wondering if the people get paid and you go into the deficit. I mean, how does that happen where there's not enough, you're down $8,000 during the year? I just don't get it.
I lost track of the budget, and I should have been before you guys several months ago. So it's my fault. It's a labor item. So with the overtime, the mechanics work the overtime. They get paid the overtime. It comes out of that line item, and it went into the deficit. There's no backstop where we would, that I know of, where we would stop paying the employees for the overtime that they worked and that they were approved to work.
Right. So that they out of that budget. So how does that? I'm just wondering, how does that get? How do they get paid if there's no money in that line item?
Tanya lets it run in the red.
Oh, and it just goes.
And we come before you to ask for the transfer to make it whole.
Okay, because I know we talked about that during our audit about money over budget. A couple of times we got hit by that by the outside auditor saying that we're over budget on a couple of things, and just wanted to make sure how that was approved or how that passes. So I appreciate that. I'm all set.
Tanya?
I just wanted to speak to that deficit. I could stop the payment if I wanted to, but it's actually illegal not to pay people for the hours that they work. So, and I actually had the conversation with the DLS about this as well. So like you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't, where you must pay your people. That's what the law says. But the DLS is saying you can't go into deficit as well. So at the end of the year, you will not see that account in deficit. We are allowed to make adjustments for these types of areas.
Okay,
I just
thank
wanted
you.
to answer that question.
Counselor Bartley?
Yeah, just through chair to Tanya. So Tanya, just to illuminate me. So where out of what budget item are these? Do we pay? I think that's where Councilor Tom was trying to go. So if I may, and then once you answer that, what other accounts are you allowed to deficit spend?
I actually normally don't have any problems with deficit spending at all, except for in cases like overtime, buyback. So it's usually more benefits than it is regular salary. And I have been requesting a transfer, as Mike has said, for this deficit. So I do keep following up, but I also don't know if it's appropriate not to pay your own employees overtime when the law states that you must pay these people.
No, I heard that, but I'm just wondering. So what from what account were the funds taken to pay the people?
It stays in that account. It just goes into deficit. So it's
okay. Okay, so this is okay. So it's still from the general. So we have funds in the general fund to pay that, even though particular accounts in deficit, we're allowed to do that. But DLS says you can't deficit fund, but the state law says so you have to pay payroll.
It's true. I don't love it.
No, I'm just saying for the lay person, in which I consider myself one, it's a touch confusing, but perhaps we'll learn more as we get a little smarter in this game. Thank you.
I also am confused, so.
Don't be confused, but let me say one thing, not to confuse you more, but it's a little bit simple to put it this way. Yes, you have to pay people who did the work, and we're not questioning that, and I'm not questioning the superintendent, but you don't do the work if you don't have the money there. Correct?
Correct.
And I'm talking about right now, if the police department overtime account goes to zero, you don't pay anybody that works overtime because they shouldn't be working overtime if there's no money in that line item. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I have my hand up.
Councilor Bacon, I'm sorry, I didn't say that.
Thank you. Thank you. So really the control point lies at the supervisor level or the level at which the overtime is being authorized in the first place. So they have to have a working knowledge of what's left in that account. I mean, I don't think, Mike, you can have control over each individual down there, right? So through the chair, the supervisor would have to know if their overtime account is tapped, and they'd have to get whatever they could get done within the regular hours. And I think as we're, in a no cash situation, we're going to have to be really careful on that for the rest of the fiscal year for sure. Thanks.
Any further discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve the transfer.
Motion made and seconded to approve the transfer. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. 4-0.
Motion to take item number 14 off the table.
Seconded to take item number 14 off the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. This is a request of $815 from office professional supplies to overtime. And Mike, is this your budget?
This is the sewer budget.
Okay, can you walk us through this, please?
Sure. This is for additional overtime dollars for the clerks. At DPW, we have 2 clerks who are funded out of the sewer funds. And this would cover overtime for we're getting into sewer shutoffs and billings and liens, things like that. We're not in deficit yet, but it'd be good to have.
Any discussion? Council Tomlin?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mike, are these clerks, are they working down at the DPW or down at the sewer plant?
DPW.
Okay, but
They're the ones you get when you call. So
okay,
to the main office.
right. And is that normal for that to happen? I mean, with the work being done, the buildings and all that, to get overtime in a office job?
Yes.
Or is that?
Yeah.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if that was work that can be done in the 7.5 or 8 hours. I just don't remember seeing overtime for office people. That's all.
It's quite, sorry.
You go ahead, Joe.
No, I just, this came up a couple of years ago and I just remembered it, and that we did, were found out a number of overtime hours. A lot of it related then was to snow removal, where a clerk comes in like a dispatcher, works the office and performs duties that are necessary in the middle of a blizzard. And these clerks, I'm like, you've talked to us about the sewer stuff. Are we making any headway in the COVID crisis of bills not being paid?
We're still treading water. It wasn't as good as when we had the true shutoff program, but we are.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
And getting some payments.
Councilor Tomlin, does that answer your question, though?
Yeah, I'm all set. Thank you.
Is there any other questions or discussion?
We do have times where there's a lot more office work that needs to be done. It's not only answering the phones, but there's the procurement side, the AP side. There's also the sewer billing. There's a lot that these clerks are tasked with.
Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the transfer.
Second.
Motion made second to approve the transfer. All those in favor? Any opposed? 4-0.
Motion to take up item 15 off the table for discussion.
Mike, I think we're all set with you, right?
Okay, thank
Thank you. Appreciate
Thanks,
it. Item 15, introduced by Councilor Sullivan. That in accordance with Mass General Laws 59, Section 38H, the City Council approve and ratify an agreement between the City of Holyoke and Holyoke BESS LLC for payment in lieu of taxes known as the pilot of a certain personal property tax obligations for property located at 50 Water Street. We have parcel numbers, and the motion is to take off the table for discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. The maker of the order want to walk us through this, and I believe, well, go ahead, Mike.
Sure. So this is very similar to some of the solar agreements we've done before. This is a battery storage installation. It's right down near the new substation on Water Street by what's called the Riverside plant where we have turbines. The rate is the same as what we've seen with the others. It's based on the number of kilowatts. And this is, although it says it's a large scale battery energy storage system, I believe the capacity on it's only going to be around 1 kilowatt. These projects wouldn't go forward without if they were paying the full amount of what the installation costs or what the value of the installation is. So it's a fair agreement. It's in line with the rest of the ones we've had. And it's the kind of forward progress that our HG&E department in cooperation with other energy developers are making to keep the city green and keep us on the leading edge. So it's a good project. It's there for anybody to see. It's right at the bottom of Appleton Street. Right when you cross South Canal, you can see the installation right there. Mike, who's the owner? It's Bess LLC, and they're doing it in conjunction with oil, gas, and electric.
Okay. But is it, I mean, do they own the property there? Is it a business besides the LLC?
No, the property is owned by the city. It's I believe it's owned by HG&E. I don't want to cloud the issue. It's a bit of a undevelopable piece of property because of certain problems with the Conservation Commission.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, real briefly, to the chair, Mike, what is, you said that they're going to produce probably 1 kilowatt.
Well, they don't produce, they store
Store it.
electricity that can be put back on the grid in times of peak demand. So,
Okay, and what would that come out to be for the city, payment wise?
that's probably in the neighborhood of about the $1,500 a year. So,
Okay, all right, thank you.
If I could though,
Councilor Murphy.
yeah, to Councilor Sullivan, that is one of the concerns that G&E has, right? Is to have storage that they could draw on when they're having peak capacity.
yes, I don't think this one installation alone will alleviate the problem. This is the exact site where every year we have to put in diesel burning generators to put power online. So I think it's going to help alleviate that situation. I'm not an electrical engineer, so I can't go into much more detail than that.
But I do know, talking to Mr. Lavelle, that's one of the things they're always looking to find more capacity for storage, because unless we get more capacity, we're going to have, at some point, we're going to have significant problems. So.
Exactly. And this battery storage is one of the newer and kind of emerging technologies that's getting better with time here. So.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Chair sees none. Entertain a motion to
approve
adopt
the
and
agreement.
approve the pilot. Made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 4-0. That's our agenda. I want to thank everyone. I know there's a difference of opinion and a discussion, but it was a healthy discussion, and I appreciate the debate and look forward to keep going forward. But again, thank you. I know it's Thursday night, and I appreciate it because Linda, I think I have to apologize to you. I thought charters and rules wanted last Monday, this past Monday.
Oh,
That's why I chose Thursday, but then I found out later that I got my dates mixed up.
oh.
But look forward to Monday night. Could be a good discussion.
And I thought
Apology accepted.
as well, Joe. So
What's that, Councilor Murphy?
I had put charter rules for this past Monday as well.
I messed up.
Somehow I missed that too. So
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody.
hey, good night.
Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion adjourned?
Motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We stand adjourned. Good night.